Martha had always hated going down into the basement. The stairs creaked, the light was dim, and the walls were lined with cracked, rotting wood that seemed to whisper as she passed. But tonight she had no choice.
Her son Daniel had lost his favorite toy down there, and he wouldn't stop crying until she retrieved it.
The house was silent as she descended, except for the hum of the old boiler. As Martha reached the bottom step, the light bulb flickered overhead. Shadows danced on the walls like long, bony fingers reaching out to grab her. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart.
"Just grab the toy and get out," she whispered to herself.
The basement smelled of mildew and something else, something metallic and foul. The air was thick with dust, making her cough as she moved forward. Her flashlight beam swept across the floor, revealing broken furniture, boxes of old clothes, and stacks of forgotten memories. In the corner, she spotted Daniel's toy, a little red fire truck. She sighed with relief and stepped forward to grab it. As her hand closed around the toy, she heard it. A low, guttural sound like a growl coming from behind her. She froze, every muscle in her body tense. Slowly she turned her head, shining the flashlight into the darkness. The beam caught a glimpse of something, a shape crouched and twisted, its limbs impossibly long, its skin a sickly, mottled grey. It had no eyes, just empty sockets that seemed to suck in the light. Its mouth hung open, revealing rows of jagged, blackened teeth. It was covered in patches of coarse, dark hair, and its fingers ended in sharp, yellowed claws.
The thing let out another growl, this time louder, more menacing.
Martha's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The creature slowly rose to its full height, towering over her, its head nearly touching the ceiling. It took a step forward, its claws scraping against the concrete floor, sending a chill down her spine. Her survival instinct finally kicked in.
She turned and bolted for the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear it behind her, its heavy footsteps echoing off the walls, gaining on her with every second. She reached the stairs and scrambled up, the creature's growl turning into a terrifying guttural roar. Just as she reached the top, she felt something cold and sharp slice across her ankle. She screamed and fell forward, sprawling onto the floor.
Her flashlight rolled away, its beam spinning wildly around the room. She kicked out with her uninjured foot, connecting with something solid, and scrambled away on her hands and knees. The door was just a few feet away. She crawled toward it, blood pouring from the deep gash in her ankle. She could hear the creature snarling, its breath hot and foul on the back of her neck. Just as she reached the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang.
Martha threw herself against it, pounding her fists against the wood, screaming for help. But the house was empty. No one could hear her. The creature's growl grew louder, and she could feel its presence right behind her, its claws scraping against the door. Suddenly, she was yanked backward by her hair. She screamed as she was dragged across the floor, her nails digging into the wood, leaving deep, bloody scratches. The creature pulled her into the darkness, its claws tearing into her skin, ripping away chunks of flesh. She kicked and screamed, but it was no use. It was too strong, too fast.
The flashlight flickered one last time before going out, plunging the basement into complete darkness. Martha's screams echoed through the house, but they were quickly drowned out by the creature's horrific, guttural snarling. The darkness seemed to swallow her whole, her cries fading into silence. Upstairs, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, clutching his stuffed bear. He had heard his mother's screams, but now everything was quiet. He wiped his tears and listened closely. From the floor beneath him, a soft whisper floated up through the floorboards, a voice distorted and inhuman calling his name.
Daniel, Daniel, come play with me.
Terrified, but drawn by some unnatural compulsion, Daniel slid off the bed and walked slowly to the basement door, which now stood slightly ajar, beckoning him into the darkness below.